today. This is security education awareness training. And I am your host, Aaron Birnbaum. I've been a cybersecurity specialist for over 5 years. I've been in technology for quite a long time. And I'll be guiding you on this fun-filled journey today. Me and my story. Basically, as I said, I'm Aaron Birnbaum. I'm currently the Chief Security Officer for Seron Security, but prior to this, in 2003, I started a small technology company, which grew for the next 15 years with some challenges and some headaches and some wonderful aspects. And I really busted my butt for quite a number of years, getting everything going up, blood, sweat, tears, whole deal. And then on March 23rd, 2014, I woke up to some emails and texts that a number of websites that we had, including a payment processing application, had been defaced. We were fully PCI compliant for payment cards because we had been accepting both credit cards and ACH, and they were never able to get access to the database, which was good because at the time we had over 100,000 health and payment records. So it was a bit scary, and after that it was just annoying, and we were able to revert to backups, and a few hours later everything was hunky-dory. Made some apologies, but assured everyone that we were on the ball, so it wasn't a life-threatening, business-destroying activity, which it very easily could have been. And I took it really personally. It was like they had attacked my child. This is something I had built for over 10 years. And so for the next 4 or 5 years, I spent a lot of time learning everything I could about who did it, why they did it, how they did it, what allowed them to do it, what were their motivations to do it, everything I could think of. And it really blew me away, and it scared me. I thought this was just, it's Hollywood, and I'm a hacker, and click, 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 and oh, I penetrated your firewall, blah, blah, blah. But it really wasn't. And the things that people can do today they're unbelievable. Besides being scary, a business that I had spent hours, probably 60 hours a week average for 10 years could disappear tomorrow. And for anyone to have to go through that, it is horrible to even begin to contemplate, much less experience. And the reason it was small businesses was primarily 2 reasons. Number 1 is they're the biggest target. And number 2 is because of the fact they generally don't have the budget or expertise to take even the basic steps to protect themselves. The main thing that I learned is that most attacks, ransomware, criminal hacking, theft, they come from failing to address one crucial aspect of security, and that's people. But it's not your fault. You can take $1 million of hardware and software and create a crazy secure network to keep all the bad guys out. But the minute that Frank gets an email and says he won 50-yard line season tickets to the Super Bowl, he's clicking that link or he's downloading that attachment. It's just almost human nature. Because machines don't open emails, and software isn't designed to be able to download attachments. People have to do those things. And so obviously the best way to prevent that from happening is to teach people how to email. You may think, well, that sounds funny, I know how to email, but let me ask you a question. When you start a new job, do they show you how to work the phones? Sure, of course they do. Do they show you how to work the computer system or any special software? Sure, of course they do. Did they teach you how to use the printer, the copier, the fax machine, the scanner, the waffle iron, whatever it is? Of course they did. Or you've learned that at a previous position, and it's pretty much the same thing. But here's the question. Did they teach you how to identify potentially dangerous emails? Did they teach you what to do if you think an email might be an attempt to access your network or gather information from you? Well, probably not. And I had to relearn, and now I teach other people how to email. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's an incredibly difficult time and the sophistication level of malicious hackers, criminals it gets better every day. And for a security professional, it's whack-a-mole. A mole pops up, you go over, you look at it, figure it's bad, and you smack it down. And the minute you do that, another mole pops up somewhere else. So today we're going to go through the process of learning how to email. We're going to begin it because it's not a one-day, one-time thing. You listen to this presentation and you know all. This is step one of a program to get you to learn good habits, to change your behavior, and to make security natural, instinctive. So is everybody ready for this one? I hope so. Go get a drink, stand up, stretch, do what you got to do. And I will say this. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for years. I still get nabbed. I still don't know everything, and I never will. I've also never said I can completely protect the network 100%, because if I did, I would be a liar. And if anyone ever does say that to you, you say, thank you very much, I have to go. Because it cannot happen. So let's begin. Why should we care? What's the big deal? Whatever. So I open an email. Who cares? Why spend time? Why spend effort? You know, hey, maybe you're not a big company. You don't think you have anything criminals want. The answer is you do. Any data has value. You are a target as a small business specifically because you're small. Even if the data that you have has no value, controlling your machines have value, because those can be used in an attack. Those can hide the origin of the attacker and make it easier for them, and having more machines can make it better, faster, stronger for them. Those machines can be rented or sold as part of a network so that people can execute other attacks, or to even have more processing power, which is now becoming a bigger issue with cryptocurrency miners. And the biggest reason that you really should care is the same reason that I care. It's because security means security. Job security, legal security, and even ethical security. If you make a mistake, or you don't do something, or you do something you shouldn't, that can have huge real-world consequences to you, to your company, to your coworkers, and everything. If the company is successfully attacked, and it's a small business, there's a 60% chance that they will be out of business in 6 months. So not only are you just potentially destroying this business that someone started, someone built, your coworkers help maintain, and everyone gets a paycheck and gets to eat and feed their family, but you yourself are getting kicked to the curb. You're getting fired because, well, we're out of business. If you're responsible for a breach and client information is exposed, there can also be legal ramifications. You can be sued. As a professional, as an attorney, as an accountant, as a doctor, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. You have a duty and an obligation to provide confidentiality of your client's information. So most of what we're going to discuss is common sense. You don't want to be, oh, there's that person that ruined our company in the local community. So we're going to talk about 3 things. And again, what did I learn? People are critical. It's very important to educate your people. You should do your basic things. You should have your antivirus and your firewall, and make sure you have the very basics. But people, educating people is the most important thing. So we're going to talk about 3 things: online threats, safe surfing, and preventative steps. In other words, what you can do to really keep yourself as safe as you possibly can. So the first thing, again, online threats. And those are, for our purposes today, there's a number of online threats, but the 3 key things we're going to focus on are malware, phishing, and social engineering. The first one, malware. is malicious software. Mala, Latin for bad. Software, we all know what software is. It's a program, it's code. Malware, excuse me, is any type of code that's written to do something bad or not intended by the system. There's lots of different types of names of malware. You've heard of them: viruses, worms, Trojan horses, rootkits, ransomware. There's a lot of different ones, but these are probably the most popular ones that you've heard of. Phishing. Phishing is actually a play on the word phishing, F-I-S-H-I-N-G, but all these cool kids have to come up with their own versions of it. The origin of the name is you're casting a huge net out into the ocean, and in this case, usually it's via email, and you then haul it in and hope you have something in your net. Even if you only get 1 or 2 fish, that's successful. What I define phishing is a fraudulent attempt to get access or private information from a user. And as I said, for the most part, it's done via email, but not exclusively. Social engineering is a criminal method that involves manipulating people in order to achieve a goal. And as I said time and time again, that is, people become the first line of defense, but they're also the weakest link. Before I go any further, I do want to address a common misperception. Malware is not specifically targeting computers with a Microsoft Windows operating system. Yes, using an Apple product is probably better than using a Microsoft product, but malware authors, they know this. They're writing more software for Apple. They're writing more software for Linux. They're writing more software for Chrome OS. 90% of web servers around the world use Linux. That's got to be a great target. There's also a lot of malware for all these new wireless devices that we have, often called IoT or Internet of Things. Your Alexa, your Bluetooth connected laundry machine, your Roomba. There are also industrial control systems that have been breached in places like nuclear power plants. Anything connected to the internet potentially can be attacked and can be controlled. So the next big thing to write malware for is phones. I mean, everyone probably has one. And there are more and more attacks on the Apple operating system because of the large number of people using Apple devices. The Android operating system, fortunately or unfortunately, is also very, very popular for phones, and a lot more phone malware is being discovered every single day. Criminal hacking, it's a numbers game. To get the most bang for your buck, you target the greatest audience. Now, Windows is used on a lot of machines all around the world. But think about it. I mean, if these crooks, they send out 1 million emails and they get one person to click that link or download the software, you know, they can ransom that network for $5,000, $10,000, $100,000 easily. Or again, they can sell access to your compromised machine. As I mentioned, there's different types of malware, and they can be combined into one attack. The one malware that people are talking about this year is ransomware. You can get ransomware from clicking a link, opening an attachment, even visiting a website, and once it's on your machine, it's going to encrypt all of your files, basically create a code that locks them all up without the proper password, and you will lose access to them, and or they may or may not be deleted. And then it will give you a message and say, in order to regain access, you need to pay us this much money. It's very important, and it's easy for me to say, but even if you do pay, you may still never get back access to your files. And that's important. Someone came up to you and basically held you hostage and said, hey, trust me, give me your money and I'll give you your files back. Well, why would you trust them in the first place if this is the kind of behavior that they're going to exhibit? I mean, it's the official policy is never to pay ransomware, and that's of course a lot easier said than done. And each individual situation is different. So there's no absolute on whether or not to do that. So just to give you an idea about how prevalent this is, research has shown that on average, there's about 390,000 unique threats each day. Now that can be similar attacks or similar code with small changes designed to avoid detection by antivirus detectors or software, but that's still a huge number. And as far as emails go, the last statistic I can get was 1 in 20 emails has some form of malicious content or intent. I mean, if that's not scaring you, then, well, you're a better person than I am. If somebody sends you an attachment that you're not expecting, don't open it. Trash it. Here's a good rule. If you don't recognize or you don't know the sender, trash it. If you do recognize it, make sure that it's correct. As a rule of thumb, you want to look to the right of the @ symbol in any email address. If you have a link and it says, hey, click here to download this or go visit this site or whatever, before you just click it, if you take your mouse and you just move it over the link and look in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, most browsers will show you what that link is going to be. So, for example, if you get bill.bella.com, that's not from bella.com. So if it's dave@bill.bella.com, that's not necessarily, from bella.com. Criminals tried really different things. They'll do something like info@paypal.paymail.com. And that's not from PayPal, that's from Paymail. I don't know who Paymail is. The other thing that they do really getting creative is they'll use a number 1 instead of a lowercase l. Or they'll use a 0 instead of the letter O. So G00, GLE is not Google. If you think, oh, I'd never fall for that, try typing LinkedIn.com, but instead of using an I, use a lowercase l. If you can tell, you're a better person than I am, because it's unbelievably difficult. And different fonts render different ways. So a lot of times where it might be obvious in one instance, it's not in every instance. So my personal rule, when in doubt, toss it out. Or you can get malware from a number of different places. Visiting a website. Some malware is being hidden in ad networks. So even if you're on CNN or BBC or Google, some of those ads have been purchased by criminals. They look like legitimate ads for products or services, but there's code embedded in them that you can get infected by. Not going to get all technical and everything. If you find a USB drive on the ground and it says confidential or urgent, what's the natural tendency to do is pick it up, bring it to your computer, and see what's on it. I'm going to plug this into my USB drive and see what's on it. Maybe I'm going to help somebody, and maybe I'm going to do something good, or rarely is that going to be a really good thing. The other thing I want to talk about is downloading free software or downloading pirated anything. As a last comment, there's nothing free. If you think you're getting quote-unquote free software, or you're downloading pirated versions of software or movies or anything like that, the number of those that are infected with malware is huge. For me, I'll spend the 99 cents and buy the song. I highly, highly do not recommend downloading pirated anything. It's never really going to work out well for you. Phishing. Phishing is what I define as a fraudulent attempt to get access or private information from a user. And most of the time, phishing refers to a malicious email. The criminal wants to fool you into thinking that the email is legitimate, and you click on a link or you enter your information, or you download a program. There are other types of what I would call phishing, and those would be smishing. I didn't make up these, okay? There's a real, which is the same technique, but utilizing SMS messages or text messages. There's vishing, which is the same type of thing with voicemail. Hey, this is John. You need to check this out. Go to www.downloadmalware.com and you'll see the funniest thing. You got to do it. It's going to be great. There's spear phishing, which is not just throw my huge net out, but I actually target specific people. Do some research, do some homework, try to find out what their hot buttons are, what their job responsibilities are. If they're in accounting, are they expecting an invoice? Oh, so I can send them an invoice and they'll probably open it. There's also whaling, which is also a CEO business email compromise. And then there's general business email compromising. Whaling is usually hitting or targeting a senior official, whether CEO or CFO, and a message says, hey, this is Dave, the CEO, owner of the company. I need you to wire some money to this account right now. It's very important. Well, people don't want to challenge authority or second guess the CEO, so they just go ahead and send several $100,000 to some unnamed account thinking they're doing the right thing, and they're just following the orders. Another thing I want to mention is that the days of bad grammar, mismatched colors, made up logos, those are long gone. I mean, phishing mimics the look and feel of a company in every aspect. The logos, the links, and the verbiage may actually be pulled from the real site, but the link they want you to click on is bad. Again, take your mouse, put it over a link, and it will tell you where the clicking link is going to take you. As I mentioned, you probably think, oh, I'll never do something like that. I would never click on a bad link. I'm smarter than that. I know that. I know there's no Nigerian prince. Well, in 2018, 30% of people opened phishing messages, and 12% of people opened an attachment with their email. Now, if you do click a link, and it happens to the best of us, just be critical of the page that you land on. Why would Amazon need my social security number? That's kind of strange. Or why am I on ebay.uk.co as opposed to ebay.com? If you think you goofed up and you made a mistake or you clicked a bad link, immediately change all of your passwords, especially your email passwords. If I went to Amazon and why would I change my own email password? Think about it. If you're going to do a password reset, what do? You click the link and they send you an email how to reset your password. If a criminal has control of your main email address, you can sit there and change your password all day long. It's not going to make a big difference. If you think the email might be real and it says, hey, call this phone number, don't call a phone number in the email. Don't click on a link in the email. Type it in. Open up a browser and type in badmalware.com if that's what you think. Or you think it's from eBay, type in ebay.com. If there's a phone number, don't call that phone number and say, hey, are you guys legitimate or not? Because obviously that's not the phone number they're going to leave for you. And as I said, they've gotten incredibly sophisticated. You'll click on an email that looks like it's from eBay and someone will answer the phone and will say, this is eBay, how can I help you? And you'll say, oh, I was just verifying this was a real phone number and I got this email. And they're like, oh yeah, we sent that out, but I can help you. Phishing is a very, very effective, obviously, and very powerful means of control, of breaching people, which leads into social engineering, which I define as a criminal method that involves manipulating people in order to achieve whatever that goal may be. The goal could be to get access to the network or even a physical location. It could be to circumvent a security process, a procedure. It could be to obtain confidential or proprietary information. Social engineers manipulate, they influence, and they persuade humans to violate a protocol, a rule, or what have it. Phishing is a very good example of social engineering. Criminal social engineers are devious, manipulative, evil people. They know how to push your buttons. Or, hi, this is Debbie, we're with your IT company, and we wanted to make sure that everyone has a password. However, we're having a problem with our system, so if you just tell me your password, I'll type it in and make sure it's okay. Again, you may think that you would never fall for these, but if it's Friday, you're about to go on vacation, it's 10 minutes to 5, and you get that call, not everyone is perfect 100% of the time. And it's also important to note, it might not just be a one-time thing. They may contact you several times over the phone, over email, social media, texting, whatever, and build the relationship with you and build the trust so that when they do ask you for something that's a little outside the norm, well, I know them. I know this person. We have a long relationship. They're good. No problem. The most important thing is any institution should have security protocols. It should have rules that you should be following. And if you have any doubts, call someone that you know can either verify a story, can speak for that person, or validate that that's a request that should be honored. All right, everybody awake? Just checking. Second big topic, safe surfing. Couple things. This internet thing the kids are talking about, I think it's going to catch on. People use the internet for everything. I'm sure everyone listening to this has probably purchased something on the internet. When you were shopping on the internet, did you make sure the site was secure and that your credit card information was properly encrypted, stored, all that good stuff? Well, how did you know? Well, the first rule of thumb is to look for secure communication over the internet. And that's generally done with either SSL, which is secure sockets layers, is now more and more being done using TLS, which is transport layer security. Any secure website is going to have like a green padlock, little lockbox, and it's going to say, depending on the browser, it will be different, but it's going to say, secure, secure site, the name of the company. But here's a little thing. If you click on that little padlock, it will actually show you the name of the company and the name of the certificate, who it's secured by, and a bunch of other little things just to make sure, because anyone can get a certificate. You can get a free SSL certificate online. The other thing is, as we move a lot of our businesses to the cloud, the hosting company is actually the one providing the security certificate. So what a lot of criminals have been doing is they've been going to Microsoft's Azure cloud, and they put up a website hosted on Azure. Well, when you click on the SSL, it comes up as Microsoft.com, and it's real. But it's not necessarily for that website, it's for the cloud. And that might be a little hard to comprehend, but there's been a lot of successful criminal actions that have leveraged that recently. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but nothing is free. You think Facebook is free? Well, give us all your information. We're going to watch all your habits, and we're not going to charge you a dime. So, hey, sounds like a great deal until you realize what they're doing with that data. If you use a social network, any social network, you're paying for that service. Maybe you're not paying for it with cash, but your personal data, your personal information. If you next thing I really want to beat to death is Wi-Fi. If you really are at lunch and you absolutely need to use your phone or your tablet or your laptop, and you're out in public and you're on a public Wi-Fi, the best thing you can do is just don't do it. Seriously, do not do it. There are a number of applications that you should have on your phone or device to even consider this. My phone personally has a firewall. It has DNS rerouting. I have an antivirus on my phone. I have a VPN, a virtual private network. And in spite of that, I will not use my phone in a public Wi-Fi. It's just asking for trouble. Seriously, don't use it. If it's that big of a deal, leave your date, go back to the office and do what you have to do in what is hopefully a very secure environment. Attachments. You get a Microsoft Word, a Microsoft Excel, a PDF, a PowerPoint presentation. Even images can have malware. Somebody sends you a picture of their kid. Well, that could have malware embedded into it. Have you ever opened a file somebody sent you and it says, there are macros in here. Do you want to enable them? What that's basically asking you and telling you is, hey, there's some funky non-traditional code that your computer wants to run. Do you want to do that? You don't. I can't even begin to tell you the times that people have asked me about that. Should I do that? And the answer is no, you absolutely should not do it. Unless it's very specific, it's Dave, it's from accounting, it's your timesheet, it's your travel and expense report, whatever it may be. There's rarely a valid use for that, so be very careful of that. And since we're talking about email and we're talking about safe surfing, here's a quick note about spam. Everybody gets it. In spite of the best filters, in spite of the best software, in spite of everything they do, there are billions of spam emails a day being sent. Don't click it. Don't open it. Don't even read it. Don't even acknowledge that it's there. Just trash it. If you say, well, I'm just going to give me an unsubscribe link. This is a bunch of criminal scumbags that are blasting out solutions that have no value to you. All you're going to do is say, hey, this is a valid email address, and now you guys know, so go and sell it to all your friends that are spammers. If your email provider isn't doing a good job with spam, there's a number of software solutions that you can investigate, or your IT department should probably be investigating. It is what it is. I do want to say something about search engines. This may be superfluous, but I think it's important. Have you ever done a search for something and the first 3 to 5 results, those are advertisements? So you get, you know, do this, do this, do this, and then halfway down the page is actually the first search result. A lot of people don't realize that, and they think those top results are links, which is why they're at the top of the page. But they're advertisements, and anyone can buy an advertisement. Obviously, Google or whoever your search engine is, they charge a fee. They put ads on the top, and you might not know that these are not what you want. I'm not a big fan of review sites, primarily because they just try to get you to click on their web pages, because sometimes they'll give you the product, but it'll have spyware in it, or they'll give you a different kind of product that's not at all what you want. Again, review sites make money by getting traffic, by selling ads, by selling products. So the more people that click on them, the more it encourages them, and the more they're going to continue to confuse consumers and to trick people. Bottom line is that people trust search engines, and they really should. Not that they shouldn't trust the results, but they should look at them critically and carefully and make sure that it's not an ad and it really is the product that you want. Again, mouse over the links, look at the domain names. So let's talk about passwords. Number 1, passwords are meant to protect you and your information. Okay? Here's a little trick. If I asked you what your pet's name was, what your children's name were, I would be surprised if your password did not use at least part of one of those 2 things. People are creatures of habit. And then you probably followed it by a number 1 or 2 or an exclamation point. No, I'm not psychic. As I said, people are creatures of habit. Don't use the password. Don't use the password 123. There was an analysis of a huge number, hundreds of millions of passwords done. And password and password 123 were the top 2 passwords that people use, even still today. you're just really not even putting up much of a challenge for these guys. It's your email password protects so much that you may not even think about. We talked before about password resets. We talked about, oh, maybe I could password reset your bank or your Amazon or your credit cards or things like that. Control of one's email address is pretty significant. Rule number 2, don't use the same password on every single site. I know that's asking a lot, and you're like, how can I possibly remember all these passwords? I have to use the same password because I can't remember anything. Well, 2 ways. Number 1, easiest way that I found is password manager. There's free solutions. There's a couple solutions that are 10, 20, 30 bucks a year, which is a great value in my opinion. And basically you just need to remember 1 password so you can make it long, complex, very intricate, and it will make your life so much easier. There is a learning curve. I'm not going to tell you you're going to jump right into it. It'll take you a day or 2 to get into the habit, but then it's so much easier and so much nicer. If you are going to develop a new password for every single site or for your password, bigger is better. The complexity of a password is less important than the length of the password in terms of cracking it. In years. But again, every day our computing power gets more and more sophisticated and that time shrinks. If you want to know how secure your password is, there's a website called howsecureismypassword.net, not .com, .net. You can also see if your password has been compromised, stolen, sold on whatever method by going to have I been, it's pronounced owned, but it's a P. Long story, you can Google it if you really want to get into it. To crack a password, the criminals need to figure out each character. So the longer the password is, the longer the time is to break. If you don't want to use a password and you want to kind of have a little rule, this is what I actually used to do, and it's actually a pretty easy solution. Use a symbol or two symbols to start. Why? Because some 0.002 something % of all passwords that have been breached that are on Have I Been Pwned have used a symbol. It's almost always a capital letter is the first one. So I begin with 2 @ signs. Then I use the website name if I'm at Amazon. So I use at amazon.com. That helps me remember what the site is. No matter what the site is, it could be at Google, it could be at eBay. I put it right in there. And then use a code word. It could be your kid's name, it could be your spouse's name, it could be your company name, it could be your pet's name. So I use Seron. And then use a lucky number. It could be a birthday, it could be an anniversary, it could be your favorite soccer player's number, anything. And so I use 10, 11. And then finally, one of our rules is change it. Change it regularly, or if you are worried that you might have clicked the link or you might have been compromised, change it. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I should not say, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's important. I will change the last digit here every 90 days. So if I'm in the 2nd quarter, I'll make it a 2. If I'm in the 3rd quarter, I'll make it a 3. And if I'm in the 4th quarter, I'll make it a 4. That's very bad password protocol because it's very easy to guess. It's commonly done. However, if this is your password, by the time they get to here, it's 20 years down the road, and that's the least of your problems. As a professional, I would never recommend you to do that. As a person that knows that I got a million things to remember, and it's one less thing to remember, and I'm changing my password, so much of that is good that this tiny bit of bad outweighs it. Like I said, change it regularly. If you're going to change 1 or 2 characters in a 20-character password, that's much better than using Bartholomew 1, 2 exclamation point. But again, ideally, you would have some kind of your own code that January, February, March was J, April, May, and June was A, whatever the situation. So you never want to merely just change one digit. You want to change the whole password. Again, which is why I really like password managers. Social media. Everybody got to have a social media. I got to tweet and Twitter and face chat and Facebook and everything about walking down the hall, eating tuna fish, everything. I don't personally understand why people feel the need to share every detail of their life, but that is your decision. If your connection gets breached, the criminal can send you malware and a picture or video, and then that's gonna get sent to every single person in your network, and you're gonna be the bad person. If I have a picture every year on my birthday of me in front of my cake, guess what? You're gonna know what my birthday is, okay? If I have a favorite vacation spot that I always go to in Aruba, I love Aruba, Aruba's wonderful. I bet you Aruba's probably in your password somewhere. But here's the scary thing. The last time you went to log into your bank, it may have asked you a security question. You see where this is going, right? So when I was at my grandma, Rose Miller Birnbaum's 100th birthday back in my hometown of Manlius, New York, does anyone think maybe I took a couple pictures and posted them online, for the family that couldn't make it? But all that information is valuable because when I go to my bank, they're going to say, what's your paternal grandmother's name? Whoop, I just told you. What's my hometown? Oh, I just told you. It's easy to find the high school of that town. So if you go through your social media profile later today, see if any of these questions are very obviously answered just by skimming through your pictures and your posts. What city did you grow up in? What's your pet's name? What high school did you attend? And what was the mascot? What's your favorite book? Where's the Bible? What's your dream job? What's your mother's maiden name? If that information is easily available, you're putting yourself at risk. I will never understand why real estate agents, they feel obligated to point out that the house that they sold will shortly be vacant and post the address and how much the house cost. Because all criminals do is peruse around, network with real estate agents, and they know the house is going to be empty. The other thing you can do is when you do get these questions, treat them like password fields. Don't use real answers. Think up a code and use that for your answers all the time. So if it's your favorite dog, I'm going to put Fender guitar because I like to play guitar. And that's on all of my banks, I'm going to use Fender guitar. I don't use Fender guitar, but if I wanted to, I could. Because then even if people think they have your information, well, I know he went to Manlius, I know that he went to Fayetteville Manlius, and I know the mascots were the FM Hornets. Well, that's great, but my answer is Fender guitars. Got to be tricky, got to use tricks like they do. Okay, so yes, we got bad stuff out there, we get it. How do we prevent it? Well, a couple different ways. There's the basics. Any device that you have should have at bare minimum an anti-malware solution, whether it's antivirus, anti-malware. If there should be a firewall, you should have a VPN, even on your phone, yes, in your tablets. Not just computers can be breached. There was an attack years ago on the PlayStation Network, the Xbox. So you've got PCs, you've got laptops, you've got phones, you've got tablets, you've got those little Alexas or devices that listen to everything you say, which why people want those, I don't know. Every time you get one of those devices, or even I got a new router and it's high-speed wireless internet and it's on a different frequency, yay, it's going to be so secure. I'm going to plug it in and go. Guess what? There are websites you can go to that will tell you the default password of every device that's manufactured. And so many people don't change their passwords. It kills me. You get a brand new smart TV. It's on a network. Did you change the password? It's got a default password. I'm looking at my router right now. I've changed the password like 4 times. The number of compromises that have happened because people didn't take 2 minutes to change a default password is just upsetting to me. The second biggest thing, backups. Back up your data. You have pictures of your family, your children, your dog, your hobbies, whatever they are. You'd feel horrible if they got destroyed. So you back them up. Same thing with your data. Back it up, back it up, back it up. You can back it up locally. You can back it up remotely. You can back it up to a cloud. Just back it up. I mean, for those of us in the United States, the cities of Baltimore, Atlanta, all these big companies getting breached and locked up with ransomware. If I get hit with ransomware, in about 2 minutes, I'm back. Because all I do is close down, wipe my machine, reformat it, re-image it, and pull my latest backup. And boom, I'm done. I'm not happy. I may have lost 5, 10, 20 minutes of my life, but guess what? I'm not a city that's down for 2 weeks. It's inexcusable. As a consumer in a non-critical environment, you should be doing a backup at least once a week. And don't just back up to an external hard drive that you never disconnect and it sits on your desktop all the time. What's the point? Ideally, you should do a complete backup at the end of every business day, locally, off-site, and somewhere else. Patching and updates. I know, I'm going to wait. I know there's a new version of this, but I'm going to wait a month or 2 and get all the bugs kicked out of it. I've heard that time and time again. Great philosophy doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because what happens is criminals will find an exploit. They'll find some code that allows them, again, to circumvent the natural course of order. And what they'll do is they'll immediately start using it. And until it's discovered, every machine that's running either that operating system or that software or that network protocol, whatever it may be, is vulnerable. So the day it's discovered, the discovering company notifies the software manufacturer, the hardware manufacturer, whoever it is, doesn't announce it publicly, gives the company time to fix it. And once the company has fixed it and released a patch, then they'll notify, hey, we're the ones who discovered this, and this is what we did, and we worked with them, and they fixed it. Every day that patch is out that you don't patch, your machine is vulnerable. If you don't do your updates regularly, they're vulnerable. It's known as a 0-day exploit because no one has had time to really fix it. Document your processes and your policies in your company. If you don't have one, create one. Document it and share it so everybody knows. If money is ever to be sent, does the recipient make a phone call or a text or an email to confirm that the person that sent it meant to send it, that the dollar amount is correct, that the recipient is correct, all of those different things. There should be a protocol for as many situations as you can think of. If your computer gets breached and things start going hokey, what is the protocol? Is it turn the machine off? Is it pull it from the network? What should you be doing? And that's generally going to be up to your IT provider, whether it's in-house, outsourced, or whatever it happens to be. What is the minimum password length that the company requires? Does it have to have uppercase, lowercase, numbers, letters, symbols? What is it? So if a new person comes in, they know what to do or what not to do. Multi-factor authentication, which is also referred to as two-factor authentication, 2FA, dual-factor authentication, MFA, multi-factor authentication. Passwords are a single source of authentication. If you use more than one thing to validate your identity, that's a good idea. If you bank online, you probably have already experienced 2FA, dual-factor authentication. You want to send this money? We're going to send a text message to the phone that we have on file. Enter that text message. So that's just another form of authenticating that you are who you claim to be and that this is a real request. Basically, two-factor authentication utilizes two different elements. Something the user knows, which is your password, and then something the user has. And typically, that's now your mobile phone, or it could be an app. Again, a lot of websites offer 2FA. It's worth the extra 28 seconds to, and not even that anymore, to be able to do it to be more secure. You do have to turn it on at your website or your software provider, but if you use a special app, you can download that onto your machine. And again, there's free solutions, there's paid solutions. It's really up to you. One thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and I'm a huge proponent of, is physical security. Physical security is something that's completely overlooked. You could have the greatest software and the greatest policies, and everybody's using password authenticators, and everybody's doing the right things. I can walk in, I can just lift up a computer or disconnect a computer and walk out. Lock your doors. Have a camera. Silly little things. Don't prop up doors. If you have an identity access management system where you have a key card or a fob or a near field communicator or some form of ID, that's to make sure that you get in. That's not you be polite and hold it open for the next 5 people to come in, because you are hacking the system. You're defeating the system. It doesn't work like that. So be aware of physical security. If you have confidential information, shred it. Don't put it in a wastebasket and throw it away. Shred it. People still do dumpster diving. They go through dumpsters, they go through the trash, they try to find information, and invariably they do. Otherwise, why would people do it? And lock up your documents at night. If you have proprietary software, if you have proprietary information, you have documents that people shouldn't see, lock them up. Put an alarm system in, $10 a month or whatever they are now. You can probably buy a little doorbell watcher camera now. I want a moat around my house with alligators. That's it. Now, I know I haven't covered everything. I tried to touch on what I believe are the most important things for any business. Specifically, I work with a lot of small businesses, so a lot of my perception's skewed that way, but these are things that every business should be doing. And if you have concerns, bring them to your IT people, bring them to your management. Nobody should be upset with you for trying to make your workplace a more secure place. And thank you, everybody, for your time. Anybody got questions? Let's hear them.